Happy Monday from everyone here at Prom Sports World. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point Huffman, right there from the Daily Blitz.blog, Mr. Christian Simpson. Welcome to the show, my friends. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You are watching us live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and on the Huddle Sports Network. So continue liking and subscribing to the podcast. Hope you guys like what we're doing here at Prime Sports World. Let's continue to give you guys quality content 5 days a week. And Christian, good weekend in the NFL. A lot of interesting matchups for sure. A lot of games came down to the wire. You know, fourth quarter, witching hour. As Scott Hansen likes to talk about there on NFL Red Zone. Shout out Scott Hansen.
Yeah, it definitely was a very entertaining week, and it seems like the later we get into the season, the crazier the games and the scenarios get. And there's no other person I'd rather be talking about this than with you right now.
Yeah, let's get right into it. Hold on, I gotta turn this TV off behind me. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about Thursday night football. And it was, projected as being a barn burner. A little bit lower scoring than I guess I kind of expected. The Commanders really struggled on offense in this game as the Philadelphia Eagles really turned it on in the second half. And Saquon Barkley scored, I think it was 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter as he took over this game. The Eagles go on to win 26-18. Even though that score was 26-18, this game was really not that close. Like, the Eagles were in the driver's seat for majority of the second half. They hung up 40 points in the fourth quarter. Jaden Daniels, 22 of 32, 191 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Brian Robinson returned from his 2-game absence to return from that injury. He had a touchdown in this game. And then Zach Ertz caught the lone receiving touchdown for the Washington Commanders. I think that was like in the fourth quarter that he caught that touchdown. And then on the other side, Jalen Hurts, 18 of 28. He also had a rushing touchdown. Saquon Barkley continues to be a menace in the NFC North or the NFC East as he had 146 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. A.J. Brown led the Philadelphia Eagles in this game with 5 for 65. But also want to talk about the Eagles' defense in this game as they held scary Terry McLaurin to 1 catch for 10 yards, and he really only had that in the second half. Basically a non-factor, their best wide receiver in this game. And their corners, Quayon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, like they really shut down this passing attack for the Washington Commanders. Only 191 yards for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, they really did. And I think it's kind of time to say that are the Commanders a good football team? Yeah, but I'm not ready to put them in that upper echelon. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I mean, if you look at you look at their schedule and the teams that they've beaten, they haven't really beaten anyone that's any good. Like, outside of the Cardinals. I mean, that was a good win against the Cardinals. We see that what they are. The Cardinals have been this season, but the rest of their wins, we're talking Giants, Bengals, Browns, Panthers, Bears, Giants. None of those are quality wins.
Yeah, but here's the thing: you play who you play, and you beat who you beat. So you can't necessarily hold that against them. As far as the Eagles, they're hot right now. They're hot. They're clicking on all cylinders, and most importantly, I want to say this: what Derrick Henry is to the Baltimore Ravens, that's what Saquon Barkley is to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's the same impact. Feed him the ball X amount of times. Let Saquon eat. Just like you will let Derrick Henry eat, and good things are going to happen. And, I mean, he looks happy. He's finally on a winning team. I mean, look, I'd be smiling, too, if I were playing.
The Eagles have won 6 straight, and Saquon Barkley had the Derrick Henry effect. The second half of this game was the Saquon Barkley show. I mean, he had both of his touchdowns, both of them long touchdowns in the second half. That basically put this game out of reach for the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, it definitely did. This is a good win for the Eagles. I can't wait to see what they do in a couple of weeks. I know they play each other in December, and that could be ultimately for the division. But the way the Eagles are playing right now, they may seal this division up before that meeting.
Yeah, I could certainly see that happening. Swinging into Sunday afternoon football. Now let's start with the heartbreak in Soldier Field in Chicago as the Green Bay Packers upend the Chicago Bears 20-19 on a game the Bears really should have won. They were basically in the lead for majority of this game. And they had a blocked field goal that could have been the game-winning score. They did not get that field goal. Cairo Santos obviously gets blocked. by Carl Brooks. I think the guy's name who was the guy who blocked it. Jordan Love kind of up and down, 13-17, 261 yards, a touchdown, and that one really bad interception in the red zone. Then Josh Jacobs, 18 for 76 and a touchdown. Jordan Love also had the game-winning touchdown on that final drive of the game. Christian Watson could not be guarded by the Chicago Bears. He had 4 catches for 150 yards, but Jaden Reed had the lone receiving touchdown. On the other side, the Bears offense looked a little bit better in this game. They scored their first touchdown in, I think it was like 3 games at home. Caleb Williams, 23 of 31, 231, and orchestrated that final drive at the end of the game by making 3 really good throws to put them in position to even win the game. DeAndre Swift had a touchdown. Roshan Johnson had a touchdown. Roma Dunze, leading receiver for the Bears, as they fall short against their nemesis, the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, this is 12 wins in a row for the Green Bay Packers over the Chicago Bears. I'm sorry, David. And you're right. Listen, this is a game that the Bears had in their back pocket. I say the Bears lost this game more than Green Bay won it, because the Packers didn't really look all that good. And I think they look ahead, because they have a big game next week against the San Francisco 49ers at Lambeau. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Caleb Williams looked better. This is the best I've seen him look since the London game. He looked more in control. He looked more poised. He looked more confident in his passes. And you were really seeing just how much Shane Waldron was really holding him back. I think
another thing I have a kind of a mini problem with, right? Like the Bears, they got into like field goal range with like 35 seconds left in this game, and they just didn't really try to like increase their field goal percentage. I mean, run a couple more plays. They had first down. I mean, there was no need to. I mean, you had one timeout too, so you could have easily just run some regular offense and kick the field goal on 3rd down. The complacency of the Chicago Bears at times in this season has just been like they're just settling for stuff. I hate me and TJ got to get into this argument all the time. Like field goal, yes, we have really good field goal kickers in the NFL nowadays, but like they miss kicks all the time. If you've scored touchdowns, there's jeopardy of you missing a field goal kick is gone. You should be trying to put it in the end zone for 6, no matter what the scenario is. Take a shot at the end zone. I mean, you're at the 35-yard line. Like Caleb Williams can get it to the end zone from there.
Oh, definitely.
I think it's just poor man. Like he had a lot of time. He had a timeout. You could have made this an easier field goal for Cairo Santos, but he's got to make this kick. I mean, it's like 40 yards. Like this is like you're an NFL kicker. Make it.
Couldn't agree with you anymore.
It's just frustrating because the Bears outplayed the Packers for the majority of the game. Like they deserve to win this game, and like you give up a touchdown with 118 or like with not a lot of time left on the clock. You expect to like win this game, like. And it's just more mismanaging by this head coach and this coaching staff. Yes, they look better. Yes, the defense played really well and looked like they cared, which is a big step up improvement from what we saw a week before. I don't know. It's frustrating to me that like you just go, you're just like, we're settling for a field goal. Like we're going to let a kicker decide it. And a lot of times, as we've seen throughout this season, it doesn't work out that way. It doesn't the kicker misses the kick. It gets blocked. Like these things happen.
Absolutely. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth.
I'm frustrated.
Yeah, I can hear it in your voice, brother.
Let's just move on. Remember in the prediction show? Where I predicted that the Detroit Lions would hang up a half century on the Jacksonville Jaguars last Tuesday? You know what happened? They hung up a half century on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the fact that Doug Peterson still has his job at 7:26 p.m. on the Eastern Standard Time it's shocking to me on a Monday after you get blown out 52-6. You basically don't show up. You give up 21 points in the second quarter. You give up 14 points in the third quarter. You give up 10 points in the fourth quarter when the Lions, quote unquote, have the foot off the gas pedal, and you still can't stop the Detroit Lions from scoring. It's just unbelievable. Mac Jones got the start again because Trevor Lawrence, the season is over, and they stink right now. There's no reason to bring him back into the fold. 17-29, 138 yards and a pick. Travis Etienne had 12 carries for 27 yards for a whopping 2.3 yards per clip. And then on the other side, Brian Thomas Jr. continues to have a really solid rookie season. He's not going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but he's probably been the best wide receiver in this rookie class so far. Don't disrespect the Malik Neighbors, but Brian Thomas Jr. has been fantastic. 5 catches for 82 yards. On the other side, it was quite the day at the office of Jared Goff as he bounced back from that 5-pick performance. 24 of 29, 412 yards, 4 touchdowns. Jameer Gibbs had touchdowns. Dave Montgomery had 2 touchdowns. The Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown, had 11 catches for 161 and 2 touchdowns. So did James Williams, and so did Brock Wright, the backup tight end there for the Detroit Lions, as they cook the Jacksonville Jaguars 52-6.
I want to say this, David, about the Detroit Lions, especially their offense. You know who they remind me of a little bit? And we talk football all the time. They somewhat are very reminiscent of the Indianapolis Colts during the Peyton, Reggie Wayne, and Marvin Harrison days. And what I mean by that is, look, they have 2 studs on the perimeter, just like those Colts teams did. Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, and Marvin is a Hall of Famer. They have a serviceable tight end.
Reggie Wayne will be, I think.
Yes, Reggie Wayne needs to be a Hall of Famer. They have a serviceable tight end over the middle in Sam Laporta. Peyton had Dallas Clark. And
I think Sam Laporta is better than serviceable, but I don't know if he even played in this game. I think he's banged up. But
right, but you get the point I'm making. There's just a lot of similarities between the two. Other than that, man, they just continue to roll. They're 9-1, and look, I'm proud of them because I know they've been a laughing stock for so many years, and they've struggled for so long. And these used to be games that they would let slip from their fingers, but now, I mean, they're a perennial Super Bowl contender.
I mean, this is like you're playing legit football, and like they're playing against a legit team. You're hanging up 50 points. Like this is her game this season where they scored over 50 points, and like their offense is doing like Ben Johnson could basically pick the job that he wants next offseason. Like he literally could be like, okay, I'm just going to take like he literally have any job he wants. And I apologize, actually, it's only the second 50 piece. They did hang up 42 and 40 on the Dallas Cowboys and Seattle Seahawks, but they've had 5 games where they've scored over 40 points this season. Yeah. That's got to be a record. Like I can't remember. I remember a team putting up this kind of gaudy stats and gaudy numbers, and Jared Goff is just not throwing incompletions. Like he almost had as many touchdowns as he did incompletions in this game. Like his numbers are insane.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you anymore. I mean, he's not explosive. He's just efficient, and he knows how to pick his spots. And this is the best I've ever seen him look.
I mean, it's also like weird to say a guy who's not explosive. He's averaging 14.2 per pass attempt. I mean, that's got to be in like one of the best numbers in the league so far this season. Like 24 catch passes for 412 yards. Like that's some gaudy numbers there. Yeah, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown, 11 catches, 11 targets. The guy just doesn't. He has such a rapport with Jared Goff right now. They just literally don't miss. They're clicking on all cylinders.
They really are, and they're going to be a tough out come January. Remember, they also kind of remind me of the Bengals a little bit. A year full of experience now. You're a game away from the Super Bowl last year. Don't be surprised if they get there this year.
Yeah, I agree. They look like they're going to be world beaters. Staying in the NFC North versus the AFC South, but this time we're going to go to Nissan Stadium, the home of the Tennessee Titans, as they fall to the Minnesota Vikings, 23-13. Sam Darnold bounced back after a really poor, like I know they won the game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he didn't play all that well in that game. I think he threw 3 picks in that game. Last couple of games, actually, he's been a turnover machine. But in this one, 20 of 32, 246 yards and 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones got banged up in this game and left early, but he had 15 carries, 39 yards. Sam Darnold had the lone rushing touchdown, and then Jordan Addison and Cam Akers caught the receiving touchdowns from Sam Darnold. On the other side, Will Levis, you kind of see the good and the bad side of Will Levis again in this game. 1 touchdown. He did throw 1 interception. For some ungodly reason, he was the leading rusher of this team, but he only had 18 yards for a whopping 2.6 yards per carry, as they really struggled to really run the football in this game. Their starting running back, Tony Pollard, only had 15 carries in this game, in a game that was not a blowout. He didn't need to abandon the running game. When you have a young quarterback, maybe you should try to, take a little bit of pressure off him by running the football, but whatever. Nick Wexford-Kina had a 98-yard touchdown. That's the lone touchdown for the Tennessee Titans as they tack down 2 additional field goals as they fall Minnesota 23-13.
I'm not really sold on Minnesota anymore, David. Well, to be honest with you, I never really was to begin with. I think their last complete game where they did it in each phase of the football game was in week 3 against the Houston Texans. Did it offensively, did it defensively, capitalized upon special teams. Where I noticed they had issues was the game in London against the New York Jets. And ever since then, they've just been very rocky. Looked shaky against the Lions, ended up losing that game. Gave up 30 points to the Los Angeles Rams, struggled with Jacksonville, and they struggled in this game.
Yeah.
If we're being honest. So, the score is a little bit misleading in a way. Like, it's not a dominating 13-point victory.
No, and I think, like the Titans, like if they had more competent quarterback play, I mean, this is a game they probably don't win. Like if they, like Will Levis is just like his dumpster, like him being thrown into the fire for the Tennessee Titans this season has just not gone well. Like people thought he'd be the guy, he just hasn't been.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
And
think
yeah,
they need to put more around him. I feel like they haven't really done that. Yeah, Calvin Ridley is a start, but what was the Titans' identity for so long? And it's tough to replace a guy like a Derrick Henry, but like
I
you
mean,
said,
they're not even really even trying to run the football. I mean, you give your starting running back 9 touches in this game, 9 for 15 yards. Like, yes, your offensive line isn't good, but like you got to give your running back more than 9 carries. Take a lot of that pressure off of this passing game where you're having 31 passes for Will Levis. You'd like to see him have more like a 25 pass attempts for Will Levis. Take a little bit of pressure. Also, like when you run the football, it just kind of shortens the game. Like you eat some time off the clock. You don't have the incompletions. Like you're just burning clock.
yeah.
Yeah, the Titans, I think they're going to have to do some soul searching in the offseason. And I think it'll be interesting to see what they do with the draft. If they decide to go quarterback, which is probably what I would do, because I don't think Will Levis is it.
I can see that. I can see
from there, but swinging into the AFC, still in the early afternoon window, we got the Las Vegas Raiders going into South Beach and taking an L to the Miami Dolphins, 34-19. Tua Tagovailoa was fantastic in this game, 28 of 36, 288 yards and 3 touchdowns. Devon Achane, 17 for 73 and a touchdown. Jonnu Smith, 6 for 101 and 2 touchdowns. If you watched our Fantasy Football Weekly show, I picked him as my sneaky and daily guy. So if you started Jonnu Smith in your fantasy football leagues, you probably are pretty happy right now. And an entire kill, back-to-back games and touchdown for him as he's coming back from that injury. On the other side, Gardner Minshew was okay in this game. 30 of 43, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. For some reason, Jacoby Myers was the leading rusher for the Las Vegas Raiders as they only ran the ball 16 times for 60 yards. Brock Bowers continues to have a fantastic rookie season. And if Jaden Daniels wasn't doing what Jaden Daniels is doing right now, Brock Bowers would for sure be in that conversation when it comes to Offensive Rookie of the Year. 13 catches in this game, 126 yards and a touchdown. Amir Abdullah had a receiving touchdown as well as the Raiders fall to the Dolphins.
Couldn't agree with you anymore about Brock Bowers. This is this is a nice win for the Dolphins going across the country.
I mean, it really kind of saves their season. I mean, basically they're playing in must-win mode for the remainder of their schedule.
I agree, and I think last week was the start of that, going across the country into SoFi and winning that game, and then beating a team you knew you could beat. You had your foot on the gas. Yeah, there were times when the Raiders were knocking at the door, but Miami put them away when they had to.
Yeah, I mean, on the Raiders side of this, like we got Brock Bowers has been like the lone bright spot that you could really kind of point at when it comes to this Raiders season, because it's kind of gotten away from them here. Gardner Minshew has just kind of been rocky for most of the season. The running game has been non-existent whatsoever for most of the season as well. And Brock Bowers, like you look at him and like, yeah, he's been the lone bright spot for what has been a really disappointing Raiders team.
Yeah. Yeah, and what Brock Bowers is doing now is what he was doing in college. I mean, I don't think they're using him and letting him display his versatility, because you see tight ends today, David, are so much more athletic than what they were 15 and 20 years ago. They're being used as pretty much additional wide receivers. They're catching screen passes. They're running jet sweeps. They're playing out the backfield as wide backs, and they're lining up in the slot as receivers. So they do so much more than what they did back then.
100%. The evolution of the tight end position has definitely been kind of fun to watch, right?
Yeah.
Moving on from there, we're going to stay in the early afternoon window. We got the Los Angeles Rams looking to bounce back from that loss on Monday Night Football. They get it by going up against another AFC East opponent in the New England Patriots. But as always, this New England Patriots team is scrappy. Fought them tooth and nail. Unfortunately, Drake May threw a ill-advised pass in the fourth quarter in under 2 minutes. Was picked off by I don't remember his name right now. Cameron Kitchens, he got the interception there in the 2-minute drill. The Los Angeles Rams win 28-22. Matthew Stafford was fantastic in this game. 18 of 27, 295 yards and 4 touchdowns. Kyron Williams, 86 yards rushing. Puka Nacua had a touchdown. His touchdown was real nice. Full layout dive by Puka Nacua as he brings in that touchdown. Cooper Kupp had 2 touchdowns. Colby Parkinson, the tight end there, had a touchdown. On the other side, Drake May has been pretty good so far this season. I think you see some flashes of like, hey, this is the kind of the guy you want to build around. 30 of 40, 2 touchdowns, and obviously that one costly interception. Ramondre Stevenson, 73 yards rushing. Kendrick Bourne, Vendor and Lowe, I think that's there you go. Offensive tackle looks like also caught a touchdown in this game. So yeah, the Patriots scrappy, but they fall short again and fall to 3-8.
Yeah, you said it best. They play hard for Gerard Mayo. They're just on the receiving end of losses. But the Rams went on their run last year, and it's almost like deja vu all over again. They're healthy. Cooper Kupp is playing. Puka Nacua is playing. Matthew Stafford is still a very solid quarterback that doesn't get enough love and enough credit. I think he's very underrated. And Drake May, the sky is the limit for this guy. He's yet to scratch the surface. Continue to build around him. Get him a more serviceable wide receiver. Yeah, the guy, the speedsters are cool, but go and get him a possession guy, a guy that can go up, climb the ladder, and get the football. They're not hard to find.
Yeah, and I think that should be probably a focus of their offseason, like either in the draft or free agency. I haven't looked at any of that stuff who's even available. But, I think they need to elevate this wide receiving core. I mean, Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, those are fine players, but none of them are really needle movers at this, especially not anymore at Hunter Henry's age. Same thing with Austin Hooper. Kayshon Boutte has continued to be kind of shows flashes here and there of what the potential he showed at LSU early in his college career. But I just think they need another guy. They need a go-to receiver to partner with Drake May. And I just don't think he's on the roster right now for the New England Patriots. And then for the Rams, a tough loss against the Miami Dolphins where you really couldn't get your offense going. This has got to be a real nice boosted confidence there. Matthew Stafford throws 4 touchdowns. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, both involved and actively involved, both go over 100 in this game. And Kyron Williams, as a team, they ran the ball 24 times for 407 yards, 4.5 yards per clip. That also includes the 0 yards rushing on 4 attempts for Matthew Stafford. So if you remove that math, which I'm not going to be able to do in my head, but this is a team that's balanced right now. The 24 rush attempts to 27 pass attempts. That's what you'd like to see out of the Rams team.
I agree. Balance is still key in today's NFL. I get it's a pass-driven league, but when you can still keep a defense on their toes and run the football, good things happen.
Yep. From there, I guess a bit of a shocker, really, that the New Orleans Saints, behind the incredible play of Taysom Hill, beat down Cleveland Browns in the Bayou, 35-14. Jameis Winston threw it 46 times in this game for 395 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nick Chubb, good to see him back on the football field for a second game, I think, so far this season. 11 carries, 50 yards. He did not get into the end zone. Jerry Jeudy had his best game maybe as a pro. I think it was looking at his numbers. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but 6 for 142 and a touchdown. He just didn't produce like this in Denver. And then Elijah Moore also had a receiving touchdown for the Cleveland Browns. On the other side, this was the Taysom Hill show. He had 7 carries for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 8 catches for 50 yards. MVS continues to just be a revelation for this Saints team. Another touchdown in this game, 71 yards, another long touchdown. And then Derek Carr, good day at the office for him, 21 of 27, 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. The only thing you can hate on Taysom Hill on is that he threw a pick in this game. 1 and 2 with a pick. Yeah, so Taysom Hill carries the he also lost a fumble. He carries the Saints to victory.
Yeah, and the Saints are just playing with a brand new energy. You didn't see this under Dennis Allen, but you're seeing this under Darren Rizzi. They're playing with a spark. They're playing with urgency, and it looks like they're having fun again. You didn't see that once the losing streak started. Cleveland, this was a game they wanted to go get for Jameis Winston, but they couldn't stop Taysom Hill.
Yeah, he averaged 19.7 yards per carry in this game. If you see Taysom Hill in the game, you probably know he's going to run the football. So maybe you should load up the box a little bit.
Honestly, look, you don't know what he's gonna do because he can run jet sweeps. They can use him as a wide receiver. I remember when Breeze was still playing, and they would line him up on the perimeter.
Yeah.
He's truly the jack of all trades guy that I think many NFL offenses want because he can line up and he's a threat in the red zone. He's almost like a more versatile version of Tim Tebow in a way,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I think that's a good comparison. Like
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Saints, we're not sure how this season's going to end for them, but if they continue to win, especially what's going on in Atlanta, I guess we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But like, this division is not wrapped up. Like they can still make things interesting in this division if they have this energy. I mean, if you go to 9-7, I mean, the division would be in play at 9-7. I think nobody else is really running away with this. It's like, it's like we talked about last season. Like nobody really wants to win the NFC South this season, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's been a very wild topsy-turvy division because it looked like Tampa Bay was running away with it. Then Chris Godwin gets hurt, Mike Evans gets hurt. The Saints, they look to be firing on all cylinders those first 2 games of the year. Then they lose their next 7, end up firing the coach. They win 2 in a row. Atlanta, and I know we're going to talk about them in a couple minutes. They look to be running away with this division, and now they've hit a bump in the road.
Yep. From there, we're going to talk about the AFC South versus the AFC East. And we got the Indianapolis Colts pulling the rabbit out of the hat and taking down the New York Jets 28-27 on an Anthony Richardson go ahead touchdown in the final minutes of that game. Anthony Richardson actually played probably his best completion percentage game of the season here. 20 of 30 for 272 yards and a touchdown. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game as well. Josh Downs had a receiving touchdown. On the other side, this has got to be a really frustrating performance for the New York Jets. This is a game you should win. Like this is not a great Colts team. And if you're the Jets and you have these title aspirations, to lose this game is devastating. Aaron Rodgers was good in this game. He just wasn't good enough. 22 of 29, 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. Breece Hall had a touchdown. Devontae Adams led the team in rushing, and Breece Hall had the other receiving touchdown along with Kenny Yuba. I think that's how. I don't know. He had the receiving touchdown over there for the Jets as they fall to the Colts 28-27.
I'm so proud and I'm so happy for Anthony Richardson because it's not what happens to you. It's how you respond to it. And he just came out with a clear conscience, fresh slate. Hey, what happened. Now let me show that I can lead my team. And he came out, and this is the best I've seen him look on an NFL field. He was in control. He looked confident from the pocket. He was throwing the ball, hitting his receivers in stride. But most importantly, David, he didn't have to put on a cape and play Superman and be that hero coming out the phone box. You know what I'm saying? That we always discuss. Like they did just enough. Yeah, the Jets shut down Jonathan Taylor because they held him under 100 yards rushing. But Anthony Richardson put this team on his shoulders, and I'm happy for him. Sometimes a benching is really good for you. And as for the Jets, they're a mess. Yes, this is a game that they should have won, and it's funny because my mother asked me, "Did the Jets win this game?" I'm like, no, but I have a feeling they're just going to lose. And look at what happened.
Yeah, I mean, you're up 24-16 in the fourth quarter, and you score a touchdown to put yourself up 24-16 in the fourth quarter, and you don't score again for the remainder of the game. You give up 2 touchdowns and back-to-back drives for the Indianapolis Colts. Like, this is a defense that was supposed to be like one of the premier units in the NFL, and for you to give up back-to-back touchdowns, for you to basically allow the Colts to steal this game from you, it's kind of like a paradox for what the Jets have been this season. Like this is what they are. This is what they've been all season long.
Yeah. I mean, this was a microcosm of this season. If you ask me, and look, they're just a mess. And like TJ said, did they really need to go and get Devontae Adams when they had more glaring issues? And not only that, I don't think the Jets have only won 1 game since they fired Robert Saleh. So that just goes to show me that, was Robert Saleh really the problem, or was he the scapegoat?
Oh, I mean, I think we've talked about this. He was for sure the scapegoat. Like, if things
Absolutely.
aren't working, like, we're just going to fire the coach and hope that things work out. Also, Kenny, man, Yuba, first NFL touchdown for him. So congratulations to you, young man. Hopefully you got that football somewhere safe.
Well done, young man.
I apologize for butchering your name twice. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so I apologize.
Still getting
Uh,
paid.
Moving on, staying in the late afternoon window, we got a real barn burner in the AFC North, and for some reason, the Steelers always seem to have the Baltimore Ravens number. And crazy fact is that this was the first game in the division for the Steelers so far this season. So they're going to be playing a lot of division games coming up here as we wind down towards the end of the regular season. And they win against the Baltimore Ravens 18-16. Lamar Jackson, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Derrick Henry got into the end zone, but he only had that 13 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. Something me and Christian kind of talk a lot about when it's called Derrick Henry's got to get those touches. Isaiah Likely returned from injury. He was the leading receiver for this team. Zay Flowers caught the lone receiving touchdown as the Pittsburgh Steelers shut the door on the 2-point attempt that could have tied the game. They could not get the onside kick, and the Steelers win the game. Russell Wilson, this was not a great Russell Wilson game by any stretch, and probably the worst game he's played as the starter of this team. But he did enough just to get them win. Chris Boswell kicked 6 field goals. Russell Wilson had a pick. Najee Harris, leading rusher. George Pickens is now the third leading receiver in the NFL with 8 catches for 89 yards, as he's been really good over the last month or so.
Yeah, David, you just pointed out on it with Derrick Henry. He needs to touch the ball between 20 to 25 times to have an impact. He gets over 25, you're for sure going to win. The recipe for an L for the Ravens is to throw countless amounts of pressure at Lamar Jackson and really limit Derrick Henry. Did you see the way TJ Watt hit Derrick Henry in the backfield? Look, that was just man on man in a war, and TJ won the battle. Plain and simple.
And Derrick Henry also had his first fumble in like 500 touches in this game.
He was not happy. He was very disappointed because he usually does hold on to the football.
But also, all of the people on the internet, actually, people at ESPN are complaining that Derrick Henry didn't get a single touch in the fourth quarter. The Ravens only held the ball for 3 minutes in the fourth quarter. Like they had they had that crazy interception, and then the Steelers had the ball forever in the fourth quarter. And yes, he should have more than 0 touches in a quarter, but it's not like the Ravens had the football for an extended amount of time. They had a 2-play interception drive, and then they had the game-winning drive at the end, or the potentially game-tying drive, and that's when they used Justice Hill. That's just the way it goes. They had to do it in under 3 minutes.
Yeah, and the Ravens beat themselves in this game because Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals. That's 6 points right there. Lamar threw an interception, right? Yeah, he threw an interception. The Ravens,
he threw like a crazy interception with like a one-handed pick. By Peyton Wilson.
The Ravens kept fumbling the ball left and right. This game reminded me so much of what we used to see between these teams in the mid to late 2000s. I'm talking those defensive struggles. It's getting chippy and it's low scoring. And I mean, the Steelers didn't even score a touchdown.
No,
but they still walked away. And I'm going to tell you this, David. Mike Tomlin became my favorite for Coach of the Year right now because what he's doing with the Steelers right now is absolutely phenomenal.
I mean, I'm eating my words big time on the Pittsburgh Steelers because when we did the season preview episode, I thought that they would for sure have the first losing season in Mike Tomlin's career. I just didn't think that this roster was good enough to be a potential playoff team, and I've been very wrong. I also not crazy about the play that the Ravens ran on the 2-point conversion. You basically limit Lamar Jackson's real ability. If you're going to bootleg him to the other side, where you can kind of better make her. I don't know. That play just didn't look good.
But other than that, I can't wait to see these two play again. These rivalry matchups are always fun between these two. But yeah, the Steelers are 8-2. They haven't lost a game since they started Russell Wilson. Defensively, they're doing it. They're running the ball. They're moving the ball effectively. And I mean, this was a game they really had to muck it up and grind it out.
From there to the late afternoon window, we're going to talk about the first of the blowouts. Actually, the only real blowout this weekend, as the Denver Broncos hung up 38 points at Mile High over the Atlanta Falcons. as Kirk Cousins had one of his worst days at the office. This is actually the first time in his career that he has back-to-back games without a touchdown pass. 18 of 27, 173 yards and a pick. Bijan Robinson, 12 carries, 35 yards, but they were trailing for majority of this game, basically out the gate. Before they even knew it, they were down 21-6 at halftime. Drake London, 3 for 61. Bo Nix had probably his best game as a pro. But this Denver Broncos offense was just humming in this game. They had over 100 yards rushing as a team and a touchdown. Bo Nix had 28 of 33 for 307 yards and 4 touchdowns. And most importantly, only 1 sack, but the Atlanta Falcons, as we talk about a lot on this show, they just don't generate a pass rush. And that's probably going to be their undoing when it comes all said and done. And then Lord John Humphrey, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Nate Atkins all had receiving touchdowns for the Denver Broncos as they cruise to the easy victory, 38-6. Michael Penix also got his first kind of reps in the NFL as well in garbage time.
Yeah, this is a good bounce back win for Denver because that was such a heartbreaking loss last week. And I think they played a lot better than many anticipated from them. And the Falcons, like I said, they've hit that bump in the road. So this NFC South right now it's not necessarily a closed door because 3 of these teams can still come back and try to win this division. But Denver, Bo Nix, he was on the money, completing all his passes, trusting his receivers to make catches, offensive line protecting them, moving in the pocket, moving out the pocket, Denver's defense getting home and teeing off. Yeah, great all-around win for the Broncos.
From there, we're going to swing into the NFC West as the San Francisco 49ers drop another game basically at the horn. This is going to be the 3rd game that they've lost. Well, they had a lead with under 2 minutes left in the 4th quarter. Not ideal if you're the San Francisco 49ers and you have hopes of winning the Lombardi Trophy. They fall 20-17 to the Seattle Seahawks as Geno Smith had the game-winning rushing touchdown to put the Seahawks up for good. 25-32 for Geno, 221 yards and a pick. Kenneth Walker, 14 of 54 and a touchdown. Geno Smith, as I mentioned, had the game-winning rushing touchdown in this game. And Jackson Smith-Njigba, he had a really good game the last outing that the Seattle Seahawks had. This game, 10 for 110. You love to see him get all these kind of guys involved. DK Metcalf returned from injury as well, 7 for 70. And then Brock Purdy, an up and down day at the office for him. He had a touchdown. He had a rushing touchdown. He also had an interception. And Juwan Jennings has emerged as one of those guys that's kind of become the go-to receiver now for the San Francisco 49ers. 10 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown. But it was not enough as they fall to Seattle 20-17 in a game they really needed to win. They're going to put their clamps on the NFC West. So,
yeah, the 49ers just continue to let leads slip from them. They can't hold leads. They're in the red zone. They're either settling for 3 or they're leaving 6 on the table. That's been their problem. They've been extremely inconsistent this year. And usually after week 9, week 10 is when they start to find their rhythm. But that just hasn't been the case this year. They've been an issue. It's been an issue all year long. I think they missed Javon Hargrave in the middle. Should have never got rid of Eric Armstead. They let him walk. And I think their defense will be a lot better, but I just don't see the toughness in the 49ers that I've seen in previous years. You were afraid to run on them. Now they give up over 100 yards rushing, and it's like no one's afraid to pound the rock and punch them in the teeth. What do I always say, David? The bully don't like to get bullied. And they've been getting bullied. They've been getting tossed around. They've gotten lunch money taken from them. This is a big win for Seattle, and shout out to Geno Smith for doing the Steph Curry dance. How petty can you get?
For San Francisco. So they're 1-3 now in their division. They're actually dead last in the NFC West, which is they're all at 500 or better. But their 3 losses in the division they had the lead with under 2 minutes to go in all 3 of those games and lost all 3 of those matchups. They just like the San Francisco 49ers, like when they have a lead, you feel, it's not like this point where they are going to shut the door on teams anymore. You feel like you can come back on San Francisco. They're not scaring teams the way they used to in past seasons, especially not this year. And this is 3 games that they should have damn well won that they ended up coming out with L's.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm curious to see where the 49ers go from here because it does not get easier for them. They have, I think, the two toughest road games on their schedule. They go to Green Bay
Yep.
this upcoming week, and then they go to Buffalo the week after.
Yeah, and then I mean, also they got another matchup with the Rams, and they still got to play the Lions and the Cardinals down the stretch here. So
David, I'm just going to come right out and say, I think the 49ers missed the playoffs.
we'll see. We'll see. I'm not gonna say anything that bold. I think they'll still get in. But I'm less confident today than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
Moving on from the game of the weekend as Buffalo Bills knock the Kansas City Chiefs off the ranks of the unbeaten 30-21. Patrick Mahomes was a really just kind of a pedestrian Patrick Mahomes day at the office here. I know he threw 3 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 interceptions. Kareem Hunt continues to be the leading rusher as Pacheco should come back next week. 14 of 60 for him. Xavier Worthy had a pretty solid game here. 4 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown, but this is really about the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. 27 of 40 for 262, a touchdown and an interception for Josh Allen. And then he had the game-sealing touchdown run of 26 yards where he just barreled through some Kansas City Chiefs on the way to pay dirt. One of those iconic MVP-type moments that where you kind of look at like, who's going to win the MVP, and you look at who has that MVP moment. That was Josh Allen's MVP moment potentially in this game. James Cook had 2 touchdowns in this game as well, and Curtis Samuel had the lone receiving touchdown for the Buffalo Bills as they win 30-21, and they showed some toughness and they showed some grit as they hung up 14 points in the final frame to get out of here with the victory.
Yeah, they really did. I love what Buffalo did on both sides of the ball. Offensively, they wanted to establish themselves at the line of scrimmage, getting the ball in the hands of James Cook. But Khalil Shakir was my X factor in this game for a reason because Kansas City somewhat struggles with those smaller and shiftier receivers. So what did they do? Threw it to the outside, gave Shakir a chance to work in space, screen passes, going over the middle, and he's been Josh Allen's go-to guy for a reason. But it was defensively, David, where it really stood out for me because they had a spy, Terrell Bernard, had him spying Patrick Mahomes. And when you pressure Mahomes up the middle, that allows your edge rushers to get home and contain the quarterback. These are 2 guys that you can't allow to buy time out the pocket and extend plays because that's when they're both at their best. You saw what Josh Allen did, and you've seen how Patrick Mahomes has made a living as well. But they kept Mahomes pretty contained in that pocket, and Travis Kelce only had 1 or 2 catches, if I'm not mistaken. So they didn't let him get
2
going.
catches for 8 yards. So he's been on a tear the last couple of weeks, and this was by far his worst performance of the
definitely.
last
But
this month.
and you said something else. I think this is the game that kind of put Josh Allen in the driver's seat right now for MVP because you mentioned it, having MVP moments. Josh Allen just knocked off an undefeated team. And this is a big win for Buffalo. Yes, they own the head-to-head right now over Kansas City, but my thing is this: can they do it when it matters most, which is in the playoffs? Josh Allen owns the regular season matchups. Patrick Mahomes gets the last laugh when it matters most, which is in January. But I will say this: if they play how they did yesterday, and if they do play Kansas City again in January, which I think they will, and if they play like this, they could beat Kansas City again.
I agree. But we've seen this over the last few years. I mean, we talked about it a little bit on the preview show. I mean, the Buffalo Bills now they've won 4 in a row when it comes to a regular season matchup. They've played each other 4 years in a row. They've won all 4 of those matchups in the regular season. When it comes to the playoffs, they played each other 3 times, not in a row, because they had that one game against the Bengals that they lost. But like the Chiefs and the Bills have played 3 times in the playoffs over the last 4 years, and the Chiefs have won all 3 of those matchups.
Yeah.
To Sunday Night Football, and this was looking like it was going to be an absolute shellacking of the Cincinnati Bengals after the first half of this game. And Justin Herbert was throwing FDRs all over the football field. He was cooking, man. And then the Cincinnati Bengals came out in the second half. They were like, well, we got our season's on the line here. If we don't win or be respectable in this game, our season's going to be over. It did not matter as the Los Angeles Chargers and J.K. Dobbins scored the game-sealing touchdown to move them to 7-3 and win this game 34-27. Joe Burrow, another fantastic day at the office. 28 of 50, 356 yards and 3 touchdowns. Chase Brown was also super effective in this game, 22 for 86. He also had 57 yards receiving. Jamar Chase had 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins went over the century mark and had a touchdown. And on the other side, Justin Herbert, most of his damage was in the first half as they put up 27 points in the first half, but he was absolutely locked in that first half. 17 of 36, 297 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think at one point he only had like 1 or 2 incompletions in the first half. Like he was amazing. J.K. Dobbins had 2 rushing touchdowns, including the game-sealing touchdown to put the Bengals away. And Ladd McConkey, 6 for 123 yards. Will Dissly had a touchdown, and Quentin Johnson, who's been amazing this season in his sophomore campaign, also had a receiving touchdown in this game. Yeah,
the Chargers should be ashamed of themselves because when you're up by that amount of points, double digits at that, you got to keep your foot on the gas pedal, and they took it off. Give a lot of credit to the Bengals for fighting back. Joe Burrow is having the best season of his career, but he's on a losing team. The Bengals' problem is their defense. Should have never let Jesse Bates go, and Trey Henderson has to shoulder a lot of the responsibility for this defense. When he's not on the field, the Bengals are just going to give up. Countless play after countless big play down the field. The Chargers, on the other hand, they're quietly 7-3, David.
Yeah.
And no one's talking about it. I mean, look, I know the AFC has been Kansas City.
I think the reason that nobody's talking about the Chargers, right, is because look at who they've played and the games that they've won. I mean, obviously the Denver Bronco victory looks better now than it did then, but this is their first quote unquote quality win. And even the Bengals haven't been good this season. But I mean, we're talking Titans, Browns, Saints, Broncos, Panthers, Raiders. That is not exactly a resume where you're like, yeah, this is one of the better teams in the NFL, but they play good football. And when Justin Herbert plays like he did last night, they can beat anybody in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. And again, this is just the Jim Harbaugh effect. Wherever he goes, the winning culture just follows him. You saw what he did in Ann Arbor for Michigan. You saw what he did with the 49ers. You saw what he did in Stanford. And, his touch is just rubbing off on these guys. And on top of that, with the Bengals, they had 2 chances to take a lead in this game, and Evan McPherson missed both kicks.
A guy who's usually pretty sure-handed, pretty reliable as a kicker,
pretty reliable with the foot.
This is the second game that they've lost because of Evan McPherson missing a field goal. And this is kind of the stuff that I'm talking about with TJ. With like, field goals are, I guess, we have really good kickers in the NFL, but they're not guarantees. Like, you got to get 6 points. You got to put it in the end zone and like not leave it on the leg of a kicker. Yeah. Like, this game was pretty wild. Down the stretch of this game, I think we had 2 missed field goals and a punt in under 2 minutes, like, and then a touchdown to seal the game. Like, wild stuff.
Crazy game. I thought this was going to be a blowout. Then I hear Mike Tirico getting excited in the booth, and I'm just like, uh-oh, here we go. And Jamar Chase, he is the best wide receiver in football, not named Justin. I mean, what he's done this year, you name the route, he can run it. Name the down, he runs it. Any type of pass, he catches it. And he's aggravated. So was Joe Burrow. Did you see them after the game?
Yeah, they look happy. Their defense is for sure letting them down this season because their offense has been awesome. They're just getting smoked by one of the worst defenses in the history of the league.
And that's the thing. The easy thing is to blame the quarterback because he's the fall guy 9 times out of 10. But last I checked, Joe Burrow don't play defense, and neither does Jamar Chase.
I mean, Joe Burrow's thrown 3,000 yards. He's got 27 touchdowns. He's got 4 picks. Like.
And what do I always say, David? If he has a winning record right now, he's the front runner for MVP, and I don't think it's close.
I agree with you. I mean, his gaudy numbers are, but a lot of that is because they're getting down in a lot of these games, and so he basically has to just like a lot of it is just kind of like not a lot of it is garbage time, but like they've lost every game that they've lost, they've been in the thick of it, and they just haven't been able to get over the hump. And it's going to be probably go down as a lost season for Cincinnati unless they can really get on a tear here and win the last 5 games in a row. Even that might not be good enough to get in the playoffs.
Nah, I doubt it because the AFC is a little bit more competitive this year.
Yeah.
You know, Denver's been pretty good. Chargers have been pretty good. Miami's going to be in the thick of things. So, you know, yeah, I don't
Let
know.
me real quick welcome in TJ Hopkins in the show. What's up, TJ?
Yeah, my bad, fellas. It was a long day and I fell
You're
asleep.
good, man. We're just talking about Bengals Chargers, but you wanna talk about anything else real quick before we get up out of here?
Yeah, but yeah, just a couple games. One, Philly and Washington. Nick Sirianni. Ever since that incident with the fans, um, Philly has definitely turned things around. Cause that was weird. Like y'all know the situation I'm talking about. Like he barking and cussing back at the fans, and it's like, dude, you're. I think at the time they was like 2-2 or 2-3, and it just weren't looking good. They weren't playing good football. But ever since that moment, the Eagles have said, "Hey, um, yeah, not to, like we were in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. We're not that far removed from that." That game literally showed how the difference between them and Washington, like just how much ground Washington has made up, but how much more they still have to go. I'm very, I'm super excited for the rematch in DC whenever later in the season. I already know Christian probably gonna write about that one. Um, Packers Bears, like I just want to know who the Bears pissed off to have this kind of luck, right? Like I understand, I just don't get it. Eberflus coaches scared. He don't coach to win. He coaches scared. He coaches not to lose versus coaching to win, and he continues to be out coached, not just by whoever the Bears are playing, but just across the league, right? Like there's countless examples of what to do and how to do it in certain situations that he just continues to fail in. Shout out to Thomas Brown for waking up the offense. They almost had like 400 yards of total offense. That's amazing. That was beautiful to see.
Yeah, the offense
Eberflus,
looked like it was the offense looked like it had some rhythm to it. Like it looked like it was it was humming a little bit.
it was humming. Like my only issue is Caleb Williams hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in like 3 weeks or some crazy like that. Lions, man. Doug Peterson, you might as well, if your office ain't empty, might as well. It's time. It's time. That and Baltimore Pittsburgh. I think Christian was the only one who picked Pittsburgh out of the four of us. So,
yeah.
I to sum that game up, there was a play, and I sent it to Christian. Derrick Henry gets the ball, and T.J. Watt meets him in the backfield, and T.J. Watt won. I'm like, oh, it's like that. Broncos, Falcons. Hey, Bo Nix. Hey, I told folks Bo Nix should have been the third quarterback off the board. I told people. Everybody was so stuck on like, but look at his age. I'm like, I don't care. Like you put
but he's gonna play for 10 years. Like it's not like his age is pretty irrelevant. Like he's 24 or 25. Like
you put Bo Nix in with the Patriots. I don't know. Things might be different for New England right now. Like Bo Nix is mature. Bo Nix had just as many college starts as Jaden Daniels. Like Bo Nix, I think Bo Nix had like 47 college starts before going to the NFL. That's a lot of college starts. That's a lot of reps. That's a lot of throws. Bo Nix is in this offensive rookie of the year conversation, and I don't want to hear none. I don't want to hear, oh, it's Jaden and it's no one else. No, Bo Nix is in that conversation. Put some respect on his name. The Falcons, David, you continue to go down with that ship, and they just continue to let you down, bro.
All right.
And Bills Chiefs, bro, I was so numb by the Bears loss. Like I didn't even care about football the rest of the night. I understand Buffalo won, but if I'm Buffalo, I don't care about beating Kansas City right now. This is the fourth time they've beaten them in the regular season. I don't care. Beat them when it matters. Beat them in the playoffs because that's when they beat you. Always. And the Bengals Chargers, bro, it felt like no one wanted to win that game. That was like one of the that was like some of the most frustrating football I've ever seen in the last 5 minutes of a game on both sides. And it's like Joe Burrow is like he gets that Joe Cool moniker because of his situations in the clutch, and then it's like okay, he finna win this game, and it's just like oh they're punting again. Like now, first off, you shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. You were down, what was it, 21-6?
Yeah, they were down
6,
28-6. Or 27, 27-6 at halftime.
You're down 27-6, and the one thing I liked about the Chargers, I think when it was 21-6, it was like fourth and whatever. It's like, hey, kill shot, let's get it. Kill shot.
They let J.K. Dobbins go over the top for the touchdown right before the end of the half.
It's like kill shot, let's get it. And again, the Hail Mary situation. What does Harbaugh do? Call timeout because he only had 3 guys in the back. He's like, hey, that's not enough, and they got 2 guys that can go get that ball. It's either going to be Jamar Chase or it's going to be T. Higgins, and T. Higgins had a day.
He did.
T. Higgins had a day. It just sucks that Cincinnati is where they are because Christian's been saying it all year. If their record is literally the reverse, if they're 7-4, 8-2, whatever, 8-3, Joe Burrow is definitely front runner for MVP. And Zach Taylor's job, I don't know if he gets fired, but I don't think it's not looking good.
That seat's going to be awfully hot in this offseason. But yeah, that's been our week 11 recap. Thank you very much for joining us here at Prime Sports World. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We are going live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and on the Huddle Sports Network. You can find it on Roku. I've been David Huffman, my co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins, and from the Daily Blitz.blogs, Mr. Christian Simpson. And gentlemen, what do we do here at the Prime, my friends?
We bring the heat.
We bring the heat.
Yes, sir. I'll be back.
Christian had to feel good when Pittsburgh won that game. I just know he did.
We'll be back here tomorrow with our predictions and preview show. We'll also be giving out those game balls. I don't want to miss any of that content, so please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We'll be back here tomorrow. You guys all have a good night. Stay safe out there. Peace out, gentlemen.
Yep.